We always say this as People Struggle Alliance. We always say this. Politics is not about what we say. It's about what we do. It is what we do that counts in the end. There was an executive president called Gotabaya Rajapaksa, and politicians told us since 1978, we cannot get rid of an executive president unless the parliament impeaches. The court also was unable to do anything about the abuses of the executive president. So every 5 years or 6 years, the executive president comes to power and he abuses his or her authority, and we have to watch until the next elections. But in 2022, people said, this time we are not going to watch and wait. This time we are not going to wait for the parliament to abolish the executive presidency. This time we will build a campaign and ask this invincible executive president to resign, to go home. So you remember what people said in the start of the Aragalaya, and when the Aragalaya was not picking up, including members of the NPP, you remember what they said? These are troublemakers, they are coming for, they are partying and in holiday. They are just troublemakers, they are trying to destabilize the country. But we did not give up, did we? We did not give up. And the executive president, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, did go home. That is what people can achieve when people come together. We did not just say that we want Gotabaya Rajapaksa to go home. We showed in action. 1 million people came together and showed in action that we can get rid of an executive president who has abused his authority, who has brought this country to its knees. We sent him home. Similarly, people said, because Ranil Wickramasinghe came to power, the Aragalaya has failed. He has used the Aragalaya and he has come to power. So do you think that, can we think of this as the failure of the Aragalaya? People say. This time, during parliament elections, 63 traditional politicians are not even contesting. 63 politicians are not even contesting. This is the long-term victory of the Aragalaya, that the old guard has refused to even stand for the election. They are afraid to even stand in the elections. That is the long-term punishment and the implication which of the Aragalaya, and the punishment has given people for sitting in power and abusing authority. If that is not system change, if that is not political change, then I don't know what we can call system change. But as we know, the work is not done. People came, Shakti mentioned, thousands of young people came to the Aragalaya site and people asked for system change. But what people actually wanted was a system overhaul. And today what we see as the president is just a change of face. Of course it's a new president, a new face, it's a good thing. But the executive presidential system still remains. The executive presidential system which came in 1978, and together with that, the Prevention of Terrorism Act came in 1979, and both of these systems, the anti-terror system and the executive presidential system which came together, remain in politics, corrupting our politics to date. And we know that we need to abolish the executive president. We know we need to repeal the PTA, and we know that the NPP government has been wavering despite the fact that they stood in the presidential election. Mr. Anurakumara Dissanayake stood in his presidential election campaigns and promised to repeal the PTA. He promised to abolish the executive presidency, and now they are wavering. And there is more. 30 to 50% of people in this country do not eat properly, are suffering from malnutrition. Children are suffering from malnutrition. 500,000 houses today do not have electricity. Children are not going to school because the parents cannot afford transport for the children. So while this crisis is going on, the NPP government is doing things like it wants to shut down the Triposha state-owned enterprise. When people are suffering malnutrition, that is the moment this government has decided that they want to shut down a loss-making institution, despite the fact that they do not want to interrogate. They do not want to interrogate why state-owned enterprises became loss-making in the first place. And they want to shut down this vital institution when people are going through a severe food crisis, a severe economic crisis, and when our people are not eating. This is the time the NPP government decides to shut down a state-owned enterprise which is producing food for this country. While all of this is happening, 2 days back I was in Avisavale. We had to travel a 1 kilometer road into one of the estates. To travel that 1 kilometer road, it took us 1 hour because politicians have come and gone, asked votes from plantation workers, but not a single person thought that children are living in estates. Children need to travel to schools. They can't afford vans, they can't afford trishaws, so they have to walk. So should we not at least repair the roads so that people can commute? Not a single person thought that. So we went to the Avisaval estate yesterday. People are not paid proper wages. You remember Ranil Wickramasinghe, who initially during May Day he came and said, we are going to give 1,700. Then suddenly the plantation companies rushed to the Supreme Court saying, no, we can't pay 1,700 because we are going to go into a loss. And now they are paying 1,350 and that also they are not paying properly. So people can be treated like slaves in order to make profits for plantation companies. And while this is the status quo in our country, Dr. Harini Amarasuriya, we are very glad that she is our Prime Minister. A woman has been appointed as a Prime Minister. But she is going about making speeches saying that we want to balance the business interest with the interest of the workers. We want to balance the business interest with the interest of the workers, but we have the Chamber of Commerce. The NPP government has the Chamber of Commerce head as their chief advisor, but they are saying they want to balance both interests. For 40 years, this is what governments have been telling us. We want to balance both interests, but what we have seen in practice is that workers have been starving, workers have been paying starvation wages, workers are dismissed on a daily basis for attempting to form unions, workers are sexually harassed in workplaces. And here we have consecutive governments. And here we have, today we have a government which has come on the votes of workers, telling us that they want to balance business interest and workers' interest, while workers are not even paid a decent living wage because of the private corporate lobbying and interests. So we know system change, it's a long way to go. We know system change has not come. And we know historically in parliaments, the problem has not only been of the government. When the PPA was passed, the opposition was there. They did not raise enough opposition. Of course, they did raise some opposition, but they did not raise enough opposition. When the economic transformation bill was passed last year, not a single person, not even the NPP government opposed it. When the EPF theft happened in parliament, did people come, if they did not have enough strength inside parliament, did they build a campaign outside parliament? No. They watched and allowed the theft to happen. And this is very interesting. The NPP government, last year they said, we are against the EPF restructuring. We are against the EPF restructuring, and they filed a fundamental rights case in the Supreme Court. So we thought this year, when our cases were being taken up, we thought the NPP government would come to court and say, the Attorney General would come, the Central Bank would come to court and say, yes, this happened under the Ranil Wickremesinghe government, but now it's the NPP government. We opposed this when we were in the opposition, so now we are taking a different position. We will restore the EPF funds. We would replace the loss which has been suffered by we thought that is what they were going to say in court. But they were silent. They wanted all our cases dismissed. The Attorney General did not say anything. The Attorney General representing this government did not say anything. Defending the workers, defending the fact that the government is obligated to protect the workers' savings. Not a word was uttered in court, and all of those cases were dismissed. So dear comrades, this is what we keep saying. It is not enough to send the government to power. Yes, apita jaya veva. We also need a strong opposition, an opposition like the People's Struggle Alliance. Because we do not only talk, we do not only think, we do not only pretend as if we are sad that people are suffering, but we also act. We were there during the microfinance struggles. We were there during the anti-terror struggles against the PTA. We were there when they were illegally arresting 2,000 Muslims soon after the Easter Sunday attacks. We were there when they illegally arrested 3 student union members, including one on this stage. We were there fighting for their release. We did not give up. We were there in every struggle. And that is why we are asking you, change the opposition. Send us to Parliament. Send us to Parliament so that we can make sure that the NPP government would keep to their electoral promises. They would abolish the executive presidency. They would repeal the PTA. They would bring about a different debt restructuring package for this country. We need that voice, we need that power in Parliament. So vote us to power. Vote us to the opposition. Vote us so that we can represent the voices of the struggle, the voices of the Aragalia in Parliament next year. Aragaliyata Jayaveva.
Vipakshaya Venaskaran.
எதிர்க்கட்சியினை மாற்றியமைப்போம்.
Change the opposition. ஜன அரஜல சந்தானය.
மக்கள் போராட்ட முன்னணி.
People's Struggle Alliance.